Welcome to Sermon Q&A. I'm Pastor Matt here with Pastor Michael, and on November 14th, 2021, Michael preached a message called The New Earth, and that brought up a lot of questions, and we had some fun with them. But the question right now is, will my pets be in heaven with their same consciousness?
What was your favorite pet's name?
Bear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had a black lab named Bear as my first dog. Got him when he was about this big.
No way.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was probably 5 when I got him, and he lived until I was in college.
That's great. So I will be thinking of Bear when I answer this question. So there's 3 big options. Number one, in the new creation, the new earth, God will create all new animals. That's option 1. So no former consciousness, no, like the dog you knew, Bear, for example. Bear's gone in this scenario, and there's new labs, if you will. But there's, you said lab, right? Chocolate lab?
Yeah, it was lab.
Yeah. All right, good. That's scenario 1. Thomas Aquinas took this view, and he broke all of creation, at least the animal kingdom, into what he called rational beings and animal beings, or a rational soul and an animal soul. And the idea is that you see in Scripture that, particularly with like mammals, if you will, that there's this word nefesh, and it means like either living one or soul. And so the animals have a nefesh, we have a nefesh, but there's something distinct about ours. And so what we see is that they are really important. They're really valuable. They're created right before humans are. We are created to coexist with them. So they're really important. But his view is that God's just going to recreate all the different kinds of animals. Now, what I love about this is that if we think about the 5 billion species of plants, animals, and insects that are extinct, like we have no categories for what kind of animals could be on the new earth. But that's option 1. Option 2 is you bring back all the old animals that died. So every dog that died, every animal that ever died, every T-Rex that ever died. Now we're not applying this to insects.
The new earth has to be big.
The new earth would have to be pretty large. We don't know how big technically the new earth is going to be. I mean, yeah. So like in my sermon, I mentioned I googled how many ants are there in the world, and it was I forget the answer. It's like 10 trillion, something like that.
Yeah, you said 10 trillion plus or minus a couple.
Yeah, plus or minus a couple trillion. Yeah. That's a lot of ants.
Because how can you?
That's just like right now. So even in terms of humanity, over the course of human history, it's estimated there's about 100 billion humans that have ever lived. Right now, there's roughly, I think, 8 billion alive. That's just a lot of beings, you know, and the animals are far more numerous than humans. So that's an option. I tend not to think that. So the third option is a combination of the two, which the Lord could do. So we know on the new earth, it will be delightful. It will be surprising. It will be personal. It will be wonderful. There'll be something about the sorrow and pain of the current life that is going to be redeemed. And I just have a hunch that the Lord is going to have a ton of surprises in place for everybody. Now, the question is, which one of these is true? Option 1, 2, or 3. I think it's good to say, what do we know that we know? So we know that the soul or the consciousness, the nefesh of an animal is different than that of a human. Jesus did not die on the cross to redeem specific conscious animals.
They were also made differently because God breathed life into man, but he did not do so with animals. It seems he just created them.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So we bear the image of God, the breath of God in a unique way. Number 2, there will be animals on the new earth, period. Isaiah 6 talks about this, 65, Revelation 19 has horses. In fact, the living creatures in Revelation, it's actually just the word for animal. And so some have surmised, even though they seem to also be angels, that some animals were created in the image of angels, or some angels were created in the image of animals.
Right.
But the idea, though, this is just a trippy concept, that when you have animals with wings, that was actually part of the original creation. And when we get to the new earth, there'll be all these different kinds of animals and whatnot. So who knows? But
and you also mentioned that when John was trying to explain what he saw, that he said, "Oh yeah, there's gold that was like glass.
It was like transparent glass." I think.
Pause.
Wait.
So what was he trying to describe when he saw those living creatures? You know, he was trying to put into words exactly what he saw, and so that kind of leaves us still in the guessing game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that the word is just animals. Like, so I don't know what that's going to mean. I don't know what it's going to look like. So the other thing that we know is that Scripture does not explicitly tell us that animals will be recreated with their former consciousness? I mean, this is really the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will you hold Bear again? Will Bear look at you and be like, oh, hey, man, and then like adore you?
I'll be in heaven.
I know, right?
I mean,
You'll be on the earth.
yeah,
But
I know this really shocks you, but I'm not sad about that now.
I can imagine. Okay. I know your love for animals is strong.
I'm very sentimental.
Yes. Here's another thing that we know that Scripture does imply. I want to say this carefully because I don't actually know how to interpret this, but Scripture doesn't imply that they might not make it consciously. I'm talking about consciousness. Psalm 49:12 talks about the rebellious man who, when he dies, is not going to go to the good place. And it says this: man in his pomp or his arrogance will not remain. Basically, like he's going to die and go to hell. He is like the beasts that perish. And the implication is that the man goes to Sheol and goes to the place of the dead. And the beasts are implied that that there is no future hope in life for them. Not that the beasts go to hell. That's not what the psalmist is saying. I want to be clear. But the idea is that they perish and then that's kind of it for them.
Yeah, but it's like the flower fades and the grass withers.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't go on to say that animals also die like that, but maybe in that same line.
Absolutely. Yep. We do know, and I think this is also another part of this is valuable to talk about. We do know that every aspect of creation will be redeemed and restored. So we have no idea what an atomically restored dog looks like. We have no idea when you take out death and decay, you take out the animal's need for eating other animals, and the lamb and the lion coexist, and the T-Rex and the lion coexist, and huge sharks and 50-foot long snakes. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, the reality of these things coexisting is mind-numbing, and it's beyond our imagination, which is probably why Paul said, no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart imagined what God has prepared for those who love him. Paul gets this glimpse into this, and he's like, you don't even know. Like, this is insane. And it's interesting also thinking about, I think it was Peter who talked about wives. Basically says, like, be really nice to your wives because they're going to be glorious. They're co-heirs of the entire world. And the implication is in their resurrected bodies, they're going to have a glory to them that you can't even like fathom right now. I want to read 1 Corinthians 15, because I think for me, maybe this is the most helpful text. I don't know that it answers it, but it kind of gives maybe a little direction. 15:38, this is all about the resurrection. He says, but God gives it a body as he has chosen, and to each kind of seed its own body. For not all flesh is the same, but there is one kind for humans, another for animals, another for birds, and another for fish. There are heavenly bodies, speaking of angels, I think, and earthly bodies, but the glory of the heavenly is of one kind, and the glory of the earthly is another kind. It's also possibly he's talking about resurrected bodies at that point. And then he says, there is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon. Oh, heavenly bodies also, could have been stars, etc. And another glory of the stars, for stars differ from stars in glory. And it's interesting because he's talking about glory here, and they're all different, right? They all have these different levels of reflection of the character of God, and some are closer than others. But the implication already is that this is all about resurrection. Right. All of these things will get a different glory in the resurrection. So are there going to be sun and stars, whatever? We don't need them for light, as Revelation and Isaiah teaches. But so then it says, it is with the resurrection of the dead. What is sown perishable, what is raised imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it's raised in power. And I think his point is plausibly, he's focusing on the human body. But it's weird that he's comparing animals, fish, insects, stars, moon, sun, and this implication that they're going to get way more glorious bodies. And again, he doesn't say they will, but it's really implied in the entire thing. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means for consciousness and pets, etc. Right. What I do know is that there will be a resurrection. There will be a glory that far surpasses their current glory. And let's be honest, animals are pretty majestic and awesome and intricate and beautiful and detailed and complex. And there's something about their new glory. That's
and if they're even better in heaven, how much greater will that be? Yeah.
My question is less, will we see our pets in heaven, or will they have their same consciousness? My question is, what kind of glory will they have? Like, think about this. I don't know if you were a good dog brother to Bear, master, whatever you call yourself to him.
Owner.
I don't know, Kentucky owner. There we go.
In Kentucky.
Yeah, Ohio. Sorry.
Yeah.
But like, will you and Bear be able to communicate? Like, what kind of glory will he have? What kind of conscience will it?
Well, that's only if God resurrects all of the animals.
Right. There we go. That's under that circumstance. Yes. Yeah. So I think the best answer is heaven will be short of no delights. It's very possible, and we will not be disappointed.
I like it.
Yeah. So
just all these questions just bring up so many more questions.
I know. That's
layers and layers of questions.
It's frustrating.
That's where we just say, it's just going to be amazing. And I love how you ended your sermon was, it's going to be so amazing. You should live for it right now. And so with that, let's close. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you back here for more questions on Sermon Q&A.